Hello, the Pioneer viewers. As you know, our agenda is the Russia-Ukraine war. While the war continues on the front line, interesting developments are taking place in the background. As is known, war is a multi-faced action. One cause can have more than one consequences. Within a plot, the parties mutually make their moves. The important point when making moves is to be able to block the systems of the other side by using the intelligence. Logistics activities are critical in case of war. For this reason, logistics networks are often targeted during mutual conflicts. The disruption of logistics causes difficulties for the soldiers fighting on the front line. If the flow of ammunition and the supplies to the front is disturbed, troops may be forced to retreat. Logistic networks have been targeted several times since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Ukrainian army shelled critical points belonging to the Russian army. The logistics of the Russian army suffered significant damage in the attacks organized by the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army developed a strategy for the Russian troops occupying its territory. The Ukrainian army's strategy was to prevent the reinforcements of the occupation troops by blocking Russian logistics. As a result, Russian troops were unable to succeed in counterattacks operations. The Ukrainian army wants to follow the same strategy in the upcoming harsh winter conditions. Russian logistics is a priority target. The recent incident at Russian facilities was a significant loss for the Russian logistics. The fire that broke out in Russian facilities was taken under control with difficulty. While the investigations into the fire are ongoing, sabotage allegations have come to mind. Now, if you're ready, let's examine the latest developments together. As the Pioneer, we continue to report on Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. Recently, images published on social media attracted great attention. The footage shows scenes of fire hit a facility in Russia. Many comments on the video claim that there was a connection to the logistics of Russian troops invading Ukraine. Military units, factories, and ammunition depots in Russia have been targeted in many attacks since Russia began its invasion. The Russian army suffered great losses in attacks organized by the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian resistance fighters. The problems in the logistics of the Russian army have greatly affected the combat motivation of the Russian troops. Many Russian troops could not be reinforced when logistics problems were added to the stock problems in the Russian army. Russian troops that could not be reinforced were trapped in defense position. The incident at Russian facilities was shared by many social media users. The huge smoke rising into the sky showed the size of the fire. Information shared by local sources revealed the area where the explosion occurred. According to the information shared, the incident took place at a Russian facility in a region on Oktryoy Road in Moscow, about 10 miles northeast of Kremlin. The facility where the fire took place belongs to a company that produces special vehicles for Moscow. The plant produced transportation equipment, including commercial trailers, vans, and tow trucks. A statement was made by the Russian authorities after fire. The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations shared details in a statement after the fire. According to the Russian Emergencies Ministry, the fire broke out after midnight local time and spread to more than 21,000 square feet. 150 fighter fighters and 50 pieces of equipment responded to fire. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, factories in Russia started to produce military products. A major embargo is being imposed on Russia by Western countries. As a result of the sanctions imposed on Russia, the Russian army is unable to import the necessary materials to reproduce. For this reason, factories in Russia are trying to produce for the Russian army. Other countries, especially Iran and China, with which Russia cooperates in the international arena, cannot respond to the demands of the Russian army. Moscow has been trying to fill the shortages in the Russian army's stocks of weapons and ammunition for a long time. The Ukrainian army, which targets the resources of the Russian army, does not want to give this opportunity. Since the first days of the war, the Ukrainian army has carried out major operations on the transit routes of the Russian army. Logistics convoys from mainland Russia to the occupied territories were monitored step by step by the Ukrainian military intelligence. Reinforcements and support sent to Russian troops were tried to be prevented. Russian troops stationed in Ukrainian territory had a difficult time in terms of food, ammunition, and human resources. The latest developments raised some questions. There have been allegations that Ukraine had a role in the fire that broke out in the region close to Moscow. Ukrainian authorities have not yet made statements on this issue. Ukrainian insurgents usually carried out such offensive operations. Great successes were achieved in previous attacks targeting Russian logistics. Recently, a major fire broke out in a Russian facility producing equipment such as tanks and armored vehicles for the Russian army. The fire that broke out at the facility, located in a region close to Russia's border with Kazakhstan, was hardly brought under control. The emergence of another fire similar to this fire brought the possibility of the sabotage to the minds of the many people. In recent days, Ukrainian officials have stated the basic strategy of the Ukrainian army. According to the stated strategy, Russian logistics would be the primary target. The Russian army, which could not reinforce its soldiers at the front, would have to retreat step by step. The fires that broke out in the Russian logistic facilities in different parts of Russia following these statements may not be the coincidence. Ukrainian military intelligence have been working intensively since the first days of the war. Ukrainian intelligence, which constantly monitors the movements of the Russian army, obtains important information. Ukrainian intelligence, which has many spies inside Russia, has repeatedly intimidated the Moscow administration. The fact that fires broke out into two large facilities producing for Russian logistics before the approaching harsh winter days shows the signals given by Ukraine. We have said that war is a multi-dimensional process. For this reason, it is revealed that war can provide important gains not only on the front line but also in operations behind the front line. The only way to win a war is not to fight the enemy and destroy it. If you destroy the enemy's resources and logistics, the enemy cannot confront you. This view, which is very common in military doctrine, is applied by the Ukrainian army on the ground. Meanwhile, Russian authorities continue to investigate the fires inside Russia. Do you think there is a possibility of sabotage in the fires at Russian facilities? Do you think the Russian army is successful in managing its resources? What do you think about the Ukrainian army's strategy to target Russian logistics? How can the Ukrainian army deal with the upcoming harsh winter conditions? We value your opinion. Please share it with us.